everybody. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to join us today. My name's Alex, and I'm joined today by my colleague Amy. I'm the summer intern in the Bridgewater office, and Amy is the summer intern in the Liverpool office. Just before we begin, want to give the heads up that this session will be recorded. So if you turn off your cameras, mute your microphone, that sort of thing, that'd be appreciated. If you do have any questions, feel free to enter them into the chat box as we go along. You can also save your questions because at the end we will have a little discussion period where you can unmute your mic, that sort of thing. If you don't feel comfortable participating in the discussion period, that's all right as well. Nova Scotia Works is an employment solutions society, employment service center. Our mission is to enhance the employability of all individuals in our community through learning and inclusive services. Some of those services include career decision making, job search assistance, skills enhancement and skill building, employment maintenance, and we work with youth to better understand the labor market needs. So, what's next after high school? And I'll hand it over to Amy now to start us off.
Just have to unmute my microphone. You'll be fine, we promise. So I know that there's a lot of stress, like maybe starting a new school, maybe entering the job market, and kind of the stress of starting all over again after high school. I know there's the pressure of, if you choose to go to an institution like college or university, there's student loan debt. And even if you're entering the workforce, just a lot of expenses, just being independent for the first time. And taking charge of your own life and that independence piece is a little bit daunting. But we're here to help. So Employment Solutions Society has created this webinar to help you kind of navigate what you want to do after high school. So this is a piece. You can do it now or maybe later. We're going to send you a copy of this PowerPoint, but if you can start by writing a list of your academic and personal strengths and weaknesses. So this can be like study skills, maybe you're more a hands-on learner, maybe more of a studier. That's where you write kind of your strengths and weaknesses academically. Maybe if you had any extracurricular activities that you did in high school, write those down that you enjoyed, maybe any awards and sports that you played. And also maybe look at your academic standing and write that down, but don't worry too much about your academic standing. There's always ways around to enable you to be accepted into an institution like bridging courses and maybe some requirement courses you can take to up your average so you get in. Now I want to start off by, this is just a template about how to create goals. So these are called SMART goals, and this is a really good template to kind of narrow in on the goal you want to achieve and how to get that end result. So you want to be very specific. So what do you want to accomplish? So is that maybe entering the labor force? If that might be college, university, a trade, you write that down. What is your end result? What's your goal in a couple words? And why do you want to accomplish that? So really thinking like, why do I want to do this? And what are the requirements? So that might be, say, if you're applying for a job at a high school, that might be some of the experience you have on your resume. And requirements such as like courses for an institution, what they require for your program, looking at that. And what are some of the constraints? So that might be a course that you need to get in. For applying for a job, it might be a resume or some volunteer experience or just some overall experience, and really identify what are the constraints that are holding you back from reaching that. You also want to be measurable. So how will you measure your progress? So that could look differently through anyone's goal. So how will you know that you're reaching the end result that you want? And how will you know when the goal is accomplished? So what will the final result look like? You want them to be also achievable. So how can this goal be accomplished? So some of the things you have to do to achieve that goal, you can put in a step-by-step process. So if that's 2-year diploma, a 4-year degree, maybe some volunteer experience, or maybe creating a resume. It all depends. And what are the logical steps you should take? So you can really like lay that out. Okay, so this week I'm going to do this, or next week I'm going to do that, or just whatever logical steps you need to take to reach that is what you put there. And relevance. So this is where we kind of dig deeper into the template. So is this a worthwhile goal? So really assessing, is this worth the time and money investment that I'm going to make to reach it? Is this the right time for me? So timing could be an issue. You know, am I in the right place in my life to make this commitment to this goal to achieve it? And do I have the necessary resources to accomplish this goal? So for school, it could be money. For a job, it could be the experience or volunteer piece that you may need. And will this align with my long-term goals? So really put yourself in your shoes 20, maybe 10, 5 years from now, and see where you see yourself then, and see if that goal aligns with where you want to be in that time frame. Also time bound. So this section is just like purely about the time and how long will it take to accomplish this goal. So it could be 2 years, it could be 4 years, it could be a week, a month, depends. And when is this completion of this goal due? So maybe setting a due date for yourself and a deadline, like, you know, some university degrees take 4 years, but some people take 6 years to complete it, and that's perfectly fine. And maybe finding a due date that's kind of attainable for you, or, you know, a 2-year diploma that might look like 3 or 4 years for you. Or, you know, if you're entering the labor force, I want to get XYZ experience for these months, and I want to, you know, maybe be employed by the end of the year, you know, something like that. Also, when am I going to work on this goal? So, you know, you can set a start date. So you don't have to do it this year. You can maybe be next year I'm going to start it, or 2 years from now, or 4 years from now. It all depends on where you are. And just a disclaimer on this. So all experience is good experience. Don't worry if you fall short of this goal. At least you gave it your best effort, and it's the learning experience in itself that's very worthwhile. This is just a template for you to use.
Awesome. Sorry. Awesome. So now we're going to kind of shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about the different pathways that you can take after high school. So myself and Amy, we're going to go over a few of the different pathways, such as entering the workforce immediately, community college, university, the military, taking a year off, all those sort of things. So we'll start it off here with entering the workforce immediately. So when exploring options to join the workforce, there are a lot of factors that you need to look at. You can meet with one of our case managers, once you graduate high school, you've turned 18, and we can help you navigate the job market and give you the tools to find the job that's best for you. So some of the companies with lots of rooms to grow in our area here in Lunenburg, Queens County are Michelin, Stelia, Highliner, Clearwater, etc. So Michelin and Stelia are both manufacturing companies. They they hire right out of school. You go in with them, you kind of work your way up, that sort of thing. And then Highliner and Clearwater are both based around the fishing industry. Highliner and Clearwater both have packaging and processing plants as well in the area, as well as actual physical fishing jobs. So a lot of these jobs, they can come with pensions and benefits. You get the pension benefits. So if you need benefits, or if you need pension, if you need benefits, medical care, dental care, that sort of thing, these are things that these jobs can be appeasing to you. That sort of thing. So there are good opportunities, to enter the workforce at a young age, and it can end up being rewarding. But in a tough job market, young adults will have trouble getting a job because they don't necessarily have the experience, especially if they don't have the experience. And if that's the case, they might want to consider doing some volunteering, maybe look for something a little more entry level, like a gas station or a fast food restaurant, that sort of thing, to help gain that working experience going into, you know, into these type of careers. So next we'll talk about taking some time off. Taking time off is an option. You know, and if you know, it sometimes people aren't ready. They don't know what they want to do. You know, they haven't grown up enough, and they don't feel like they're ready to university, college, or even enter the workforce, anything like that. So you can take the time off to explore yourself and the world around you. You know, some people they don't feel ready to directly go to college after high school. One option is the gap year. Some people call it a gap year. Some people call it a leap year. You know, really, it's kind of the same thing. And it's starting to become more common. So many colleges will allow students to defer their enrollment for a year. So say you apply to Dalhousie University in Halifax, and you get into Dal, and you know, you have like an entry level scholarship, that sort of thing. But you decide that you want to take the year off and travel because you're not ready to university. The universities will defer your enrollment for the next year. So you won't lose your money and you won't lose your status of acceptance. It just means that you're taking a year. And that could be for whatever reason you really want to, right? So there's all sorts of different programs that you can take to kind of explore the travel internationally if you want to do that. Like au pair is one where you basically go and live with the family in another country and you're kind of like a live-in nanny and you get to explore and travel with them. There's all sorts of different options and opportunities. And also it could just be, you know, volunteering, doing an internship, that sort of thing. You know, depending on what you're interested in, you could do some volunteering in that field and then decide if that's something you want to do. And another another really good idea is, if there's anybody in here still in high school, is doing the co-op program. You can do your co-op in areas that you think you might want to do your school in. Or do your school and to have a career in. You can kind of go to the co-op, and you do your co-op, and it counts for credit in high school, and you can go, and if you like it, then you know you can kind of focus on doing that. Maybe you don't like it and you want to shift gears. And yeah, so that's definitely an opportunity out there. If that's something you're interested, you might want to talk to your guidance counselor at your high school about that. So another option is the military. So the Canadian Armed Forces are there's a lot of different ways to enter the military. If you're seriously considering the Canadian Armed Forces, your best bet is to contact the recruiting center, and you can find that information on www.forces.gc.ca or by going to the recruiting center at 6960 Mumford Road, Suite 103 in Halifax. It's right by the Halifax Shopping Center. But I'll give a brief overview of the different pathways. So the reserves are a part-time enrollment. You can do this while you're in school. You can, you know, there's people that work at Michelin, for example, that are also in the reserves. That sort of thing. And the reserves are really cool because you work maybe one day a week. So it's kind of fairly common for students that are in university will do it. You work for one day a week, and then your summers and stuff like that, you go on courses and stuff like that. So it's a really interesting time, and you get paid for it. So another entry pathway is a non-commissioned member. Oh, one more thing about the reserves before I move on. The reserves, once you're in it, you can transfer into regular forces, whether that be as a commissioned member officer or as a non-commissioned regular forces member. So the non-commissioned members, they're kind of like the trades within the military. They don't have a university education, so they're not officers. You can enter as a commissioned member directly out of high school, and you can join. And there's different trades within the military you can take. A lot of them apply to civilian life, and you go in. You can do those trades. You know, for example, I have family members that they took aircraft mechanics, and they became aircraft mechanics, and they are my uncle. He worked He worked on helicopters for 25 years, and his son, my cousin, has been doing it for 10. So, there's lots of opportunity there, different pathways, that sort of thing. And the commission members are officers. Officers, they have a university degree, and there's two ways that you can become an officer. One is you go to a private university. When I mean a private university, I mean, something that's not like the Royal Military College. So, for example, I go to St. Mary's. When I graduate, if I wanted to, I could apply to the Canadian Forces as an officer. But the other way that you can do it is through the Royal Military College, which is the Canadian Armed Forces and the Canadian government's own university. Basically, you kind of join the Royal Military College, and when you join the Royal Military College, you become a member of the Canadian Armed Forces. So it's kind of like being in the reserves, where your summers you're spent on course training, that sort of thing, and your winters you're spent on campus in the classroom with weekends and stuff like that, being kind of dedicated towards the military. That being said, when you're there, it costs you nothing, and you actually get paid to go there, which is very beneficial. Especially the cost. Do keep in mind, though, the prerequisites for the RMC are fairly high. So if that's something that you're looking at doing, you may want to make sure that you have the proper prerequisites before applying.
Okay, so some things to think about when choosing a school. So these are just some points that maybe you should keep in mind. So course content. So is it engaging? Is the content what you want to study? And the programs that are available, do they attract your interest? Is it something that you can see yourself doing? And does it lead to a job that you possibly might want in the future? Also with the prerequisites, don't let them stop you. You can take additional courses after high school that enable you to get into any program you want. So do not worry if you don't have the prerequisites needed. So, but do your research on what you need, what the requirements are to get into school, like college, technical school, or university, and see if you need to take any emerging courses. Also, you might want to take into consideration the size of the school. So a lot of the bigger city schools, they have larger class sizes, but more resources, yet the smaller schools, they can give you more attention. So that's just down to preference. Also, the location of the school, that could be a factor when considering traveling there. Also, the overall cost, so tuition fees, living expenses, that sort of thing. Also, the distance from home might be something you want to take into consideration, because you have to factor in your travel. Is that might be flying, driving, or even if it is a couple of minutes away from your house, then that could be a factor to go there. Also housing, so you have to pay for your own housing while you're at school if you choose to go away. So that can look like residence, an apartment. So that's definitely something you have to think about when you're going. Also sports. So if you played any sports in high school, what kind of sports teams they offer, maybe you could play a sport there. Also, student life, so the community and culture of the school. So that could be a big factor into your happiness there. So really to check out the student life might be something that you might be interested in. Also, scholarships and financial assistance. This is normally a big factor when people are choosing a school where they get the most money for scholarships or where they can afford. That's also a factor to consider. Also, two things I want to mention is maybe look at the university or college's co-op programs. So see where you can go on co-op, see what opportunities are out there, and where you can get that real life experience before you graduate. And also ability to do a semester abroad. So you can go to another school, another country, and still do your semester there, learning a different culture, and traveling can be very valuable to you. And some schools do provide it and some schools don't. So that might be something that you want to look into when choosing a school. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about college. So college is a two-year program. It may be a good option for people who are unsure about their career path and who aren't ready for a four-year college or four-year university program. These programs give students the option to move into a four-year school. So for example, I'm in business administrations at St. FX. I'm also in my fourth year, so this doesn't really apply to me, but going into school, this could apply to you. For some programs, you could take your 2-year diploma at NSCC, and then after you're done your 2-year diploma, if you're like, oh, maybe I should get a degree, you can transfer your credits over to a university and finish your 2-year and get a degree. So that's pretty cool, and that's something to consider, and maybe save money and stay at home for a little bit longer, and it's more comfortable. It might be more comfortable for you. College is put in place so you can strengthen your skills and prepare for careers. So 2-year colleges may offer tutoring and training to help students move into adult life. They can help students build time management, study skills, and get used to college life while still living at home, which is a really important factor. So if you wanted to do the 2 years at NSCC and the 2 years at university, those 2 years can give you an individualized learning plan where you can learn firsthand those essential skills that university does not provide. Like, university does not provide individual learning plans, but at NSCC you get that for the first 2 years. That might make you more comfortable. Anyway, just a suggestion. There's also financial aid packages that you can look at to help you pay for your college. And then depending on your program, this is not every program, but you'd have to look in the one that you're interested in. But some employers might actually pay for your schooling if you come to work for them after you're done your diploma. There's many services at your institution to help, so reach out. They're very friendly and they can provide lots of information if you have questions. There's also technical schools. So this is for more hands-on learners. So trade and vocational programs offer a direct path towards a specific job. Students who struggle in school may prefer this type of hands-on learning. Programs tend to provide more supervision, help participants keep up with their work. So you would be working with somebody on the job, hands-on, constantly to learn the role. Many of these programs also provide internships or apprenticeships that help participants move into the workforce. So that's a really cool option. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about university. And university is an institution of higher learning, providing facilities for teaching and research, and they're authorized to grant academic degrees to people. So universities are made up of an undergraduate division, which confers bachelor degrees, and a graduate division, which will confer master's degrees and doctorates, but you do need your undergrad before you can go into graduate school. So all post-secondary schools charge a tuition fee for their programs. For Canadian citizens and permanent residents, tuition fees are between $2,500 and $11,400 a year. Graduate school is a little bit more expensive. If you're looking at a doctorate, it could be closer to 20 grand a year. It all depends on the program you choose and where you're going. So students will also have to pay for course material like textbooks, supplies, housing, food, transportation, other expenses. So that's something to take into consideration. I know from personal experience, I've had textbooks as cheap as $25 to $200. Especially if you're going into science programs, you might have to buy some additional material for your labs and stuff, which can be pricey as well. Just to take that into consideration as an extra cost, as well as your housing, so living on residence or living in an apartment, food, and then your transportation if you're going away for school, you know, driving, flying, that type of thing. So financial aid packages are available, and I stress to you to look into them to help you cover the cost, because it isn't cheap. Many students depend on financial support programs to help them cover the cost, like student loans. Services at your institution are there to help you financially and academically, so reach out, but they do not provide you an individualized learning plan in the classroom. So just to take into consideration, small schools can offer more attention to you, while bigger schools offer more resources. So that's just another thing to take into consideration. So I'm just going to talk about student loans for a little bit. So student loans assistance is a financial decision with long-term implications. Before you rush into the application, take some time to think and learn about borrowing money to pay for school and how that decision fits with your bigger long-term plans. So can you pay back the money with the job you're setting out to get? Have you chosen a school and program that will be good investment for your future, which is your job? Just so there's two kind of sections of student loans. So you get your federal student loans from the federal government, and they're called national student loans. And then you also get your student loans from the Nova Scotia government, which is a provincial program. So for Nova Scotia, with that portion of money they give you, they have a program right now, and it's really awesome. So it's a loan forgiveness. So if you graduate in university in 8 years, they will cover up to 5 years of your loan forgiveness. So they'll just poof go away if you graduate within the time. There's also accessibility grants. So people who identify with a learning disability have many different options for funding, like tech and tutoring for free. So that's really cool to explore. So I stress that you apply anyway, because most people do qualify for student loans. So if you think you don't qualify, or there's something that you're like maybe holding you back from applying, apply anyway, because it doesn't hurt. And have you considered all the ways you can pay for school? So that's just a question I'm going to leave you with. Going to the next slide. So opportunities to reduce your student loans after graduation. So I kind of touched on this, but I'm just going to take a little deeper dive. So undergraduate degrees, diplomas, and certificate, they may eliminate your Nova Scotia student loan for eligible programs completed at a Nova Scotia institution. It's assessed automatically when you're graduated, and you can learn more about eligibility online. Students with permanent disabilities are automatically assessed a little differently for loan forgiveness, allowing more time for students to complete their program, and you can learn more about eligibility on this URL there.
Alrighty. So now that we know all about how to apply for, what the pathways are and that sort of thing, we've talked a lot about, setting goals and the different pathways. But what happens if you don't succeed? What happens if life happens and you leave university or college, or you get fired from your job, or you don't get into the military, or so what happens? Well, it's not about how hard you fall, it's about getting back up. And I'll tell a brief story about myself. So when I graduated high school, pretty well, by the time I was 12, I wanted to be a pilot. Before I was 12, I thought I was going to make it to the NHL, and obviously that didn't happen. So, I thought I'd be a pro hockey player, or, maybe a pro golfer or something, but, obviously that didn't happen. And I wanted to be a pilot, and I went to flight college, and I got there, and, I loved flying planes and stuff like that. But, there came a point where I had to pay for, the next portion of my schooling, and I had the check in my hand, and I decided not to do it. I decided that, I didn't know that that's what I wanted to do, and I was scared to spend, it was a check for a substantial amount of money, and I decided I didn't want to do it. So I I dropped out and I moved back to my mom's house, and I decided that, I really enjoy politics, and I really enjoy that, and I took political science, and I take political science at SMU at St. Mary's, and and I haven't really looked back. I mean, there'll be days that, if you do fall, there'll be days that, you wish you didn't, or imagined what it'd be like if, things would have went differently. But, I'm grateful for the experience that I had, and I'm grateful for, what it taught me. I spent, probably $10,000 to learn how to, start an airplane. So, if it's ever an emergency situation, I might be able to land it. But all joking aside, failing, it's not, it's only a failure if you make it a failure. There's ways around it. You just have to, you know, pick yourself back up and, work on yourself and do what makes you happy. And at the end of the day, dollar signs in your bank account or, you know, what you do for a living doesn't necessarily mean happiness. Just doing what makes you happy is the important thing, and finding what you're passionate about. So when you go to work, it's not really work. It's and that's very cliche, but it really is true. So everything happens for a reason. Just you know, take the life lesson and try to move on. It sounds a lot easier. It sounds easier than it actually is. And I had somebody, when I was going through this time for myself, I had somebody, say these things to me, and I told them that they were crazy. But looking back on it, it's true. Things do work out. You just have to, stay focused and take care of yourself. So, we'll leave you with our contact information here, and in just a moment, Amy will turn off the recording and we're going to have a little discussion. So if you have any questions that you don't want to want to ask in the group discussion here, you can feel free to send myself or Amy an email. My email is awilson@empsolutions.ca. Amy's is aoikel@empsolutions.ca, and we'd be happy to help you out. For any other general inquiries, if you want to work with a case manager or anything like that, you can email us at info@empsolutions.ca or contact us at our Bridgewater office or our Liverpool office. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page and our website and our LinkedIn. So Amy will turn off the recording now, and we'll move